When you're considering starting a market farm, there's a big benefit to growing crops that have a long harvest period. That's what this video is all about today on Modern Grower. Hello, growers, and welcome. I'm Diego, D-I-E-G-O, and for the past 10 years, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of farmers on my podcast, as well as helping them be successful on their farms through my tool and seed company, Modern Grower. I've learned a ton from them along the way. I've made a lot of friends, and I've picked their brains. And I'm taking all those little brain pickings and I'm serving them up to you on a platter, making them nice and easy to grab and eat and digest. So if you want to be a market farmer, if you want to go from gardener to market farmer for profit, make a living doing this thing, it'll make your journey a little bit easier. Maybe you're a struggling market gardener. Hopefully something in this video will help turn on some light bulbs and get you thinking about your farm business a little bit differently, because that's how I approach market gardening from the business side of things. I'm not a grower, but I've talked to enough business owners that I have a really deep, thorough understanding of that side. And today we're talking the benefits of growing long harvest period crops. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. To bring you up to speed in terms of where we are, we're on video 4 of the crop value rating system. The crop value rating system was formalized by farmer Curtis Stone back in 2015-16 when he wrote his book, The Urban Farmer. He took what he was doing and what other farmers are doing, and he named this system the crop value rating system. What it was is a point system that you allocate points based on different criteria to crops you might want to grow. The higher the score, the more you should consider that growing them when you have limited space, limited time, and limited labor. So that's what we're talking about here. What does long harvest period mean? For the context of this video, long harvest period means the ability to harvest or replant a crop over an extended time frame, typically 4 months. So let's break that definition down. I either want to be able to plant it and harvest it for 4 consecutive months. Think tomatoes, peppers, some eggplant might fall into that variety. Or I want a crop that I can plant and replant, like radishes, in my growing window that I have wherever I'm located for at least 4 months. This is valuable because it allows for sustainable production and consistent income throughout the growing season while reducing gaps between harvests, ensuring a steady supply of produce to customers. So if you're thinking about what you could grow and you want to grow tomatoes, there's 2 types. There's determinate and there's indeterminate. Determinate tomatoes produce all their fruit at once. Once you harvest it, they're gone. Indeterminate tomatoes you can pick and pick and pick and pick. So if I had to choose, I choose the indeterminate tomato, all else being equal. That's this video in a nutshell. That's the TLDR version. Now let's dive a little deeper. So the way Curtis set this up and the way we're going to think about this, because what I've tried to do is take his base and stretch it out and expand it to add more details and give you more things to think about. He had the 2 types of long harvest period, continuous replanting and extended single harvests. Continuous replanting is what I said earlier. I can continuously plant and replant over several months, providing repeated harvests from the same bed. So that bed is providing me continual utility, meaning value to my business. It's never sitting idle doing nothing. If I only have 50 beds on my farm, I want every bed to be earning me money every single day of the growing season. So having crops that I can continuously plant, harvest, replant very quickly, that satisfies this criteria. This is your radishes. This is beets. This is arugula. Salad mixes can be in this category. They can be replanted and grown multiple times. This maximizes land use and efficiency, and it gives me a steady supply of stuff to bring to the market when I don't have a lot of space. In order to maximize our season in our area, we may need to use season extension, high tunnels, low tunnels like our quick hoops that we sell at Modern Grower, or other forms of season extension equipment to make this possible. The other form of long harvest period is single crop long harvest. This is the tomato example. Determinate tomatoes produce all their fruit at once. Indeterminate tomatoes produce over a very long period of time. Why does this matter? If you're going to plant tomatoes, typically you're going to plant them but from seed. 30 days later, pot them up, maybe another 20 days later, go into the ground. So you've grown these things for 60 days, then you put them in the ground and they grow for at least 70 days before they produce any sort of fruit. So you're 130 days into it before you pick your first red, juicy tomato. Ideally, you want to take that initial first 130 days and spread that out for as long as you can. If your determinant window closes after about 2 or 3 weeks, that 130 days went to produce 2 or 3 weeks of crops and you got that yield. If it's a indeterminate tomato, that 130 days, 130 days can be extended out for months and months. A lot of people grow tomatoes with a lower and lean system, which just simply allows you to keep harvesting. So this is good for a few reasons. It gives you tomatoes over a long time. This avoids having a glut of stuff coming ripe all at once. That what am I going to do with all this? And gives you stuff to sell week after week after week. Kale is another great example. It can be harvested for many months. As you pick it from the lower leaves, it just grows taller and you just keep picking down. One planting, keep picking. This helps reduce labor costs and input costs because you only have to plant these things once. You only have to do your nursery work once. And then again, you may need season extension or various forms of technology to help make this possible. Here are some other examples of crops with long harvest period. Radishes, because of the continuous harvest, very fast growing crop, staple on many market farms. If it works in your area, you're probably growing it as a market farmer. But it's fast growing, so every month you can put in a new crop over month after month after month. It grows well in the spring, the summer, the fall. Kale, we talked about. Tomatoes, the indeterminate varieties, are able to keep producing a steady supply of fruit over time. Why do we want to look at this? There are advantages. Number one, stable income and market presence. You're going to get consistent cash flow. A market gardener growing indeterminate tomatoes can expect sales from July through October, as opposed to a burst of short income with determinate varieties. You also aren't bombarded with all that fruit to sell at once. So we get some fruit over a long time and we sell it bit by bit over the course of a season. We can give a reliable supply to customers. They might want it week after week. They might not just want it this week. Hey, tomatoes are in, get them now or they're gone next week. See you next year. You can provide a reliable, consistent supply. If you can offer crops consistently, that's something chefs appreciate. That's something grocery stores appreciate. And that's something most customers want. So long harvest periods enables us to bring those crops back week after week, building a stable customer base with relatively same crops. Yes, people understand seasonal eating, but people also like to know, I want salad mix every day of the year. And I don't care where it comes from, but I want to buy it from you. So you better figure out a way to grow it. This can help you utilize your resources better. For sure, it's efficient use of land because you are getting maximum productivity for the amount of days. So a single planting of cherry tomatoes, you could harvest over 3 to 4 months, where corn might take the whole time for a single harvest. You're reducing labor costs. If I have a long crop that I'm harvesting over a long period, I only, again, plant that once. I only do the nursery work one time. There could be lower input costs, seed, initial bed prep, that type of thing. These cost effects can obviously be variable farm after farm. These can help you adapt to market changes. They give you some weather risk mitigation, and it can diversify your crop planning. So I can have quick turnaround crops like radish paired with things that take a long time like peppers. And I can have that consistently over the course of a long season. For people that are very into regenerative soil care, long season crops keep roots in the ground for a long time. That's a lot of sugar being fed to the microbes. That's less bed prep being done on that bed, so less tillage. It's more time for the roots to go deeper and expand. So when the crop eventually comes out, if you leave the roots in the ground, they can stay there and break down. This helps you really fine-tune your growing practices. This is a underrated, I think, important one. If you have a continuous crop like radishes, you can maybe grow that 5, 6 times a year and really get better every time. And the more times you do something, the better you get at it. Versus I plant corn, I might only be able to do that once per year. If it doesn't work this year well for me, I don't have any chance to adapt until next year. So it gives me multiple chances, practice swings to see if I can get better at nailing this crop. I can experiment with how I'm growing these things and see if I get different results. The market will maybe appreciate things such as specialization. When I grow long season crops, I could grow peppers, and you can become known as the pepper guy because you have a continuous supply of them. You could have a continuous supply of tomatoes. Definitely restaurants are going to want this specialization. They want the same crops generally week to week. They understand again seasonality, but they don't want you to have it this week, be out of it next week, have it the week after, be out of it the week after, be out of it, have it, that type of thing. Having these extended harvest crops, when you manage them correctly, you should get some harvest and then more or less have a continuous harvest for an extended period of time, eliminating this in stock, out of stock cycle that you could get. Now, what are some of the challenges that come with long harvest period? Well, there's potentially more pest and disease pressure. Older plants tend to become more susceptible to diseases and blights. So they may technically be able to harvest tomatoes for 4 months, but at the end of the 4 months, the plants aren't looking so good. The quality's maybe not as great. The yield isn't as good as it once was. So there is some potential degradation of product quality over that time. If you have to apply pesticides, if that's what you do on your farm, and you're trying to control them over the course of a 4-month tomato season, you could start to get some resistance showing up to those crops. And there is definitely more sophisticated management that needs to be done to protect something for 4 months versus something that might only need to be protected for 1 month. You're definitely changing how you're dealing with that crop. You're going to probably have to do additional fertilization on these long season crops unless you have your base soil fertility really dialed in. So that's just another thing that you have to think about. Crops like tomatoes are going to require continuous care. If you're doing a lower and lean tomato, that just means indeterminate tomato is a vine. It just keeps growing longer and longer. So it wants to grow taller and taller. So what farmers will do is prune the lower leaves up to the bottom fruit. And then once they harvest that fruit, they'll prune up to the next one. And as they're doing it, they're lowering the crop down and they can kind of wind that vine up on the ground. Well, that is a lot of work to do that. So that's something you should decide if you're going to do a long season crop. Does that crop require a lot of touching along the way? That's not just harvesting to get that crop there. There could be additional resources needed. You might need infrastructure to do this. There is risk of overproduction. Just because you have tomatoes for 4 months doesn't mean it's a good thing to have tomatoes for 4 months. You might find that over that 4-month harvest period, there's windows when it's awesome at the market because nobody else has them or fewer people have them, but there's likely a period over that where everybody has them, driving the costs down. So you're going to see a little bit of a price variability potentially in there. And there's a return on investment associated with this. There could also be higher cost inputs. When I plant radishes, I can harvest and sell those about 30 days later. When I plant a tomato, I might not be able to pick that first one for at least 100 days. Maybe it's 120 or 30. You're investing a lot of time and touching along the way to get that tomato to where you can harvest it. So you're not returning any money till way down the line. But in a vacuum, you do want to have some of these crops. So you want to try and choose a mix. That's why this is one of the factors, is you're trying to mix it up. You can't potentially have all short season crops. Maybe you can in your market. You can be a salad farm. Think about things people just eat raw. Carrots, radishes, beets, baby turnips, salad greens, microgreens. Some farms can do that thing and be successful. Others can't. They need to mix in longer season crops. So when you do that, are there ones that you can harvest over a long period of time to meet the market's needs? And again, under the way this criterion was set up, continuously planted crops do check off the box of long harvest period. I know that part's kind of confusing to people because it's a short days to maturity, but it's a long harvest period because you can just keep stacking that short DTM over and over and over all year throughout the seasonality. So when you're looking at all the potential crops you can grow, consider long harvest period. If there are plants, varieties that produce all of their fruit at once, ask yourself, is that the variety that I want? Getting a full yield from that plant over the course of that bed, what do I do with all of that fruit at once? Can I store it? Can I handle it? Can I have it all picked and sold right away? And if not, what do I do with the extra? Or can I try and substitute a variety that gives me the ability to have some of that product store on the plant and I can pick it as needed over a very long period of time? That's where I think the wisdom is. It's the indeterminate versus determinate crop question. You could look at pepper varieties the same. Is there something that provides a huge flush of fruit right away versus something that can help trickle it out over time, or at least have it store well on the plant? So when you are selecting crops, think about long harvest period or continuous cycles of short harvest period. This is one key criterion for choosing A over B when you're figuring out what you want to grow on your farm. This is criterion 4 in the crop value rating system. So if your crop fits this, check +1. Next week, we'll be back with the 5th and final criterion in the system. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it helps. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. If you want me to do any more in-depth talk about any of this subject in this video, let me know. Thanks for watching. And until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.